Hi, everyone. Welcome to New Jersey Wedding Podcasts. We are your hosts, Andrea Pertel and Celia Milton, and we are both professional wedding officiants here in the state of New Jersey. And we thank you for joining us today. We have a really great interview today. I have been looking forward to this interview. I feel like I was a little starstruck
No,
because
I was a little nervous actually.
yeah, he's really, really great, and he's
Yeah.
very well known, and his name is Jason Mitchell Kahn, JMK and Company. He is a wedding planner, really, or an event designer.
Mhm.
Um, he's also a best-selling author, and I know he's out of New York and LA. He's also married or planned the weddings for many of Broadway. He's known as the planner to the Broadway
Yeah, I know.
stars, right? But he specializes, though, too, although he does say he does everything, he specializes in same-sex or unconventional weddings, things like that. Um, and with right now being, we're in Pride Month, so happy Pride, everyone. And I know that it's the 10-year anniversary since the Supreme Court made marriage equality, and even earlier for us, right, Celia?
Yeah, New York was 2011 and New Jersey was 2013. And I thought it was interesting when I looked that up that um, our governor at that time was going to try to appeal that ruling, but he just kind of gave up because he realized, I think, how popular it was.
And I think
People,
you
yeah.
had the honor of doing the first same-sex wedding in New York. Am I correct?
I did. I
That's
had
really cool. That's
my
really cool.
it was really cool. I have to say, my friend Staten Island Julie got the call. I'd like to say that they picked me because they think I'm so fabulous, but they actually thought she was really fabulous, and she kind of bowed out. She's like, "You're going to get this call." I was at the Empire State Building, and there were four couples. You can't really get married at the Empire State Building unless it's some kind of promotion. And this was on Valentine's Day, and it was the thing that it was honoring was Colin Cowie started his new wedding website. Colin Cowie is a very
Mhm.
well-respected, famous planner, has been for years.
Yeah, he had a TV show.
It was
Maybe
great.
he
Yeah.
does.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he was great. It was two fabulous women from Alaska, and they were on Say Yes to the Dress as well. And it was pretty mind-blowing. I really didn't get how important this was going to be until when the elevator doors opened in the observation desk, like every reporter from like AP and UPL, like there were 1,000 reporters there. Michael looked at me, my partner Michael was like, "Oh, I think this might be a bigger deal than we thought." I said, "Yeah, I think maybe it is." But it was lovely, and there were two men that got married at the same time with my colleague Kim Kirkley, and it was wonderful. It was really, it was fun to be there, and realizing just like how significant these milestones are.
Yeah, I think that's really something. That is
Yeah, it
something
was
to
cool.
really be proud of, to have been a part of, to look back and say, that was
No, I
me
was,
and I got to
yeah,
do that.
it
But
was,
when you talk about not realizing how significant it is, until you're doing it, well, we had domestic partnerships in New
yeah,
Jersey, then we had civil unions, then we had same-sex marriage, and then finally the Supreme Court
yeah,
with marriage equality. So we had been doing same-sex couples all along. We've been
yeah.
performing ceremonies for them. And I guess for us, it just seemed natural. Like, but then I can remember one of my first after it became legal. We were no longer doing just civil unions because
Mm,
they didn't grant them the full rights.
right.
And so I had an older couple two brides, and they wrote their own vows, and the one bride read, she goes, "I never thought this day would come." They'd been together for like 30 years. "I never
Wow.
thought this day would come." And I get the chills thinking of this. She started crying, and what she said was so poignant. Like, they never thought this day would come. And that's when I just realized, like, how important, how significant
Significant it is. It is.
this is, it's wonderful. And so Jason Mitchell Kahn has been he actually has two two books. He has a bestseller, and that one is called Get
Get
Groomed.
groomed.
Yeah, it's for gay grooms, and it's a kind of a workbook for it. It's a bestseller. It's great. It's on Amazon. And then he has another book coming out. Yeah, the Get Groomed is the ultimate wedding planner. And what is his second book now that's
Called
in
We Do.
order? We
We
Do.
Do. Yeah. Pre-order for it's coming out in August.
Yeah, and so that's going to be a good one. I look forward to that. And he says it also comes with a companion planner.
With a workbook.
But yeah, but it's online, and I think that's really great. He has on his website has different services, all day planning, partial planning, that type of thing. He has a great team, and yeah, it was a great interview. So I want to tell everybody to stay tuned.
He's a lot of fun. He really is a lot of fun.
His
And
passion for what he
yeah.
does, right? I was just taken with that. Like he loves what he does, you know?
Yeah. And he's got a great dog too.
Yeah, yeah, he does. All right, stay tuned for this great interview.
It'll be fun. You're engaged. That is so great. It's such an exciting time and probably a little bit overwhelming too. We'll try to cut through some of that overwhelmed feeling and help you get back to the joy you both felt when one of you asked that singular question and the other person said yes. You want a unique and amazing ceremony, we know that, and we're here to put that together for you. The process is really simple. How refreshing is that? You've created your love story. We're going to write it, and yes, you will see a script before that day. We tell this great story to your guests. They laugh, they cry, and then they party. Easy, right? And I bet it sounds great. A wonderful personal ceremony that feels just like you and lets your guests feel the warmth and joy of the day. We can create that together. Okay, I cannot promise it'll be as much fun as tasting cakes, but we'll try to come close. So let's talk about how to put your wedding together so at the end everybody's had a great time and you're married. So just reach out to us at NJ Vows Now. We're going to make this all easy and fun. I promise. Hello, everybody. I'm Celia Milton, the owner of NJ Vows Now, and I cover North Jersey, and I'm here with my podcast partner in crime, Andrea Pertel, who is the wedding officiant that covers the Central and South Jersey, and sometimes we venture into New York and Pennsylvania, but we got you covered wherever you are. We're very excited this day because we have a wonderful guest. As we continue to celebrate Pride Month, we're honored and happy to welcome Jason Mitchell Kahn, who is the owner and creative director of Jason Mitchell Kahn and Company, a boutique agency that designs and produces weddings and events for non-traditional couples. His work has been featured everywhere, in Vogue, in the New York Times, in People magazine. He's been named one of Brides magazine's best wedding planners of the year and earned the title Broadway's Wedding Planner. I know you're going to have some great stories. Broadway's Wedding Planner from Playbill for his work with many stars of the stage. He's a respected voice on inclusivity in the wedding industry and the author of Getting Groomed. That's his first book of this type. The first wedding planner published especially for gay grooms. With a background in theater and playwriting, he approaches every celebration, I love this, as a beautiful story waiting to be told with the couple as stars. I may steal that, I'm just telling you. He is here on the verge of doing a publicity tour for his brand new book called We Do, ready to share wisdom and humor of his vast experience in all aspects of the wedding business. And we're delighted to have him and his fabulous dog, Barnaby, with us today. So, Jason, tell us how you got started. This is a question we all ask of everybody and ourselves every day. How did you get into this business?
Wow. Well, thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. I'm so happy to be here with both of you. I feel like I'm going on a first date because this is usually when I talk about how I got into wedding planning.
Yeah.
I feel like there's so many times when I'm on a date and they say, "So are you like J-Lo?" And I'm like, "Well, not really, but here's
Not quite.
So yes, I do come from a background in theater, and so when I first moved to New York, like many theater artists, I worked. My first job was in a restaurant as a server.
Yes.
And then I moved from there to working at a venue, which was the Soho House in New York. And I started there, same thing, as a server, really with no plan that my future was going to eventually become in events. But that's what happened. I realized I did not want to be working, in restaurants and bars and things like that. But they had an events department that I got moved into, and I very quickly sort of climbed my way up from being an events server to an events captain to a point where the general manager said, you're really, really great at interacting with the clients. So we want to get you out of a uniform and, into a more managerial look. And so I became the person who was running all the events there. And what was so wonderful about being a part of the Soho House was that it was just like the most amazing hands-on education and opportunity to really learn from doing.
Yeah.
Because we produce so many different kinds of events. So I was doing, birthday parties and fashion shows and book launches and film premieres. And then I started to do the weddings for our members that were there. And all of the other events were fun, and I enjoyed them in many ways, but I didn't feel like a dying passion to do, like gala dinners and things like that. And as soon as I started doing weddings, it all clicked for me because I loved the emotional connection that I was getting with clients.
Yeah.
And I loved that moment at the end of a wedding when no matter what amount of detail had gone into it, that a couple would say to me, you made this possible. You made our biggest night happen. And I kind of got addicted to that response. And it became clear to me, I said, I want to work in weddings. And so that's really where it started. And that coincidentally was around the time when the same-sex marriage movement was going state by state and it legalized in New York. And all of a sudden, everyone in the events industry was buzzing about all the new business.
Right.
So weddings were going to bring. And so I pitched the idea and I got my first book deal and started writing Getting Groomed, and then knew that it was time to move on from the Soho House and just work exclusively on weddings.
That's fantastic.
That's great. I love how you talk about how it's such a feel good. I always tease that if you pass me driving home from a wedding and I'm smiling ear to ear, it's because you see me driving smiling. That means I'm coming home from a wedding. It was great. All of the exhaustion, all the planning, all of that, and of course that's different. You do much more. I just officiate them, but it's just such a feel good. What a joy, what an honor to be part of someone's day. It just really gets you.
It's addictive. And I mean, it's interesting because now I've been doing it for a long time. And so I've met so many other planners, and we all share, we have different ways of working and we have different personal touches and different styles. And I've met some planners who told me that they don't really like being on site and they often send other people to really run the show, if you will. And to me, that is like my favorite part.
Yeah, really. That's the fun part.
Yeah. And it's like an opening night, over and over and over again, that I'm like so excited when a couple's wedding is approaching.
Yeah, it really is. I love that part too. And, just the seeing it all come together for a reason like that. And, I started my business. One of the reasons I started my business was because I really felt that there needed to be a place for non-traditional couples. I'm in New Jersey, and when we finally got same-sex marriage being legal, it was just I had a couple that weekend that it was a Tuesday, and it was going to be legal on Tuesday. I had a wedding the Saturday before, and I'm like, why don't we just wait until it's you can get really married? And they're like, we don't trust that. We're going to get civil unionized today, and then we'll do that on Tuesday. And we did. I married him on Tuesday in a Starbucks. That was my first same-sex wedding.
Oh my God, I love that.
But I think we all felt the same way. It's like, we don't trust this, and it's just such a.
We had started as domestic partnership.
Yeah.
And then it went to civil union here in Jersey. Domestic partnership, civil union, and then finally, Jersey was one of the first states that had equality, marriage equality, and then thank goodness it went federal. But then we had to do them over again, which it was so great because I reached out to anybody like, let's just meet,
let's do it.
Let's meet at the beach or the park and just redo it. And it was so great to see everyone again. And now it's just like, it's great. So go on. Tell us what's the difference. What can you tell us that's really different about planning a same-sex wedding versus?
Sure. Well, I mean, there's many differences, and I like every aspect that goes into wedding planning. There are things that we do with all couples because I always say I don't discriminate. I do work for plenty of great couples and do those weddings too. And I love designing weddings, and I love planning menus and going over music choices and stationery. I mean, everything that goes into it. I like all those parts. But I feel one of my favorite things is when I can really be an ally to my clients who identify as part of the LGBTQ plus community. Because there's still a lot, even with vendors like us who work in it, that they just don't quite understand how to make it their own.
Yeah.
So when we
Right.
tweak the wording on an invitation, or review how a DJ or a band is going to introduce a couple for the first time, or we go over with an officiant ways to make this wedding not just a celebration of these two people, but also where we've come as a culture that accepts this.
Yes.
Those are probably my favorite moments because I also feel connected to it because I'm also, very, I mean, I've been out of the closet since I was 17 years old. And that was a time when I never dreamed that people like me would be getting married.
Yeah.
And so to be here in a career where I'm at them almost every weekend is really, really special.
Yeah.
I think one of the other differences, and I don't like to gender it because all couples are different and
Right.
it's not 100% one way. But I find in general that with my same sex or same gender couples, that they both are really invested in the planning. They both come to the Zoom meetings. They both have a real stake in the game versus a lot of the straight couples, and not all, but a lot of the straight couples that I work with, it's really kind of about planning the bride's day. And sometimes I'm on Zoom with the bride and her mom. And I mean, there's been weddings where I've met the groom like once in the process.
Yeah.
Agree.
Yeah. And so I find that a lot of the weddings that are for two men or two women are much more about it being the couple's day versus the bride's day.
Yeah, that's an interesting observation. I feel like, I have people say to me, well, it's just like any other wedding. And it's not on so many levels, from even just like, what do we call people in the wedding party? How do we get them up the aisle? What do we say at the end? And, it's those little kind of mechanical things, but there's also the philosophical underpinnings to those things that are extremely different. And we were talking about this last night when we were talking about having you on. There's still that notion that there are people in that audience probably who have never been to a gay wedding. And, to take that into account when we're writing the script and figuring out what we're going to do with the geographical things that we have to do, I think it's just so helpful to have somebody who has that experience and can do that all graciously. And that's obviously where you come in.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's a little bit like Groundhog's Day because I've witnessed it so many times, but I love it every moment. I usually can clock someone who is sitting as a guest during a ceremony when I can tell that it's their first time that they've attended a gay wedding. And it becomes so much bigger than just the actual wedding because it's like when you realize that this wasn't available to people for centuries, and we've only been doing this really, for, I mean, this month marks 10 years of it nationally. That it's only been a decade of this, and you think like, what everyone was living so differently more than a decade ago. It's profound.
Yeah.
It's so true.
And of course, we also realize how fragile that is because there is a fear right now that this might not stay this way.
Yeah.
It's very true. It's interesting for me when we married a couple. One of my other officiants married a couple last week, two men, and they've been together for 28 years.
Yeah.
And, it's not for lack of wanting to be married. It's just for a long part of that 28 years, they just couldn't.
Yeah.
And, when you think about how significant that is for a couple to just know that you can't, I've done baby namings for some of my gay couples that have adopted babies and or use surrogates. I mean, it's just, I'm starting to cry because it's just so significant. And I think it's something that people just take for granted until you realize that this has just not been available. As you said, it hasn't been available. It's only been available for 10 years.
Yeah. I mean, I worked for a couple with their wedding was last year, and it was two men, and they had been together 45 years.
Wow.
Reached out to hire me, and I was thrilled because they were wonderful people. And and as we were getting to know each other, I said, I mean, I'm really, really happy to have this job, but I'm also just so curious what changed after 45 years that made you do this. And they said, for a long time we were happy when, people got their rights, but it was a little bit of like, why fix what isn't broken kind of.
We don't need it. Yeah.
But then they said, you know what, as we are getting older and you begin to think about maybe a time in life when one of us might not be here anymore,
Yeah.
we don't want there to be any doubt in anyone's mind what we meant to one another. And I started to cry.
Oh,
So beautiful.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's
very
it's pretty amazing. It's pretty significant when you think about, why anybody gets married and what difference that makes to not only them but to their community around them.
Yeah,
yes.
definitely.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's really what weddings are. They're a celebration of the couple, but their communities.
Yeah.
And so it's so beautiful when you see the impact that they can have on everybody.
I've noticed some in these last years, because with same-sex weddings, they're bridesmaids, groomsmen, they mix them, right? They mix them, and I then now see that in all weddings. I think they kind of open
Yeah.
that up, like, yeah, my bridesmaids could be bridesmen too. He's my best friend or whatever, and they do that. I see that we've learned from them, and I have a wedding coming up. It's a bride and a groom, and for the first time, they want me to recite what Justice Kennedy said,
Yeah.
and I thought I've only had same-sex couples ask me to recite that, but it means it's for anybody. The institution of marriage, that beautiful, I don't have it in front of me, wish I did, that beautiful, what he wrote. And I just think that's great that we've all embraced this. We've learned, we've embraced it. So.
Yes, I mean, I've been asked, many times what the same-sex marriage, wedding movement has done is also affected straight weddings. And in
Oh,
fact,
absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
way. I mean,
Yeah.
I've had so many, straight brides who have, when we first started talking to me, they said, I really want a gay wedding. I'm just not a gay man. And I was like, okay, well, let's unpack that. What does that really mean to you?
Yeah.
And really what I learned after a while was they've attended, their friends' weddings or relatives and seen um, same-sex couples throw out the rules and throw out the traditions and only do the traditions that really speak to them. To your point, like asymmetrical wedding parties and, mixed genders. And I mean, I've had, brides and grooms who have chosen to get ready together because they didn't want to spend the day separated. And I've
Yeah.
had brides that said, I think the idea of a first look is just like not my kind of thing. I don't want it to be a huge surprise, like what I look like. And we really want to enjoy like the day with like room service
Yeah.
and hair and makeup can come. And I think those are the types of things that gay weddings have allowed people to open up their eyes to the possibilities of.
So tell us about your services. What you have different packages, and where do you? I know you're New York based, New York and LA. Tell us where you. I know you have a team. Do you work all over, and what do you offer?
Yes. Well, the short answer to that is we will really offer anything to clients that we feel a connection to. That has really become, I don't have any requirements other than feeling like when I first meet a couple, like, yeah, we have a chemistry together and this is going to be an interesting opportunity to work together. We prioritize doing full service planning for couples. That's really what we hold our calendars open for. And then we sprinkle in some partial and day of,
Mhm.
if they come in and that weekend is not already taken. And, again, I mean, some couples, I never believe in pushing people to buy what they don't need. And some couples just don't need a full service planner. They've gotten a lot done on their own. And then it's 3 months before or 6 months before. And they said, now I just really need someone to like drive it home.
Yeah.
And if we're not booked, then, sometimes we'll consider those. I am based in New York City and we work all over though. I mean, I love when I have a local wedding in the city and I don't have to travel out for it. It makes it a little bit easier. But we've done a lot in Los Angeles, and I've met a lot of people both in LA and New York who have met me and wanted to take me with them. So that's taken us, we were in Dallas and Boca Raton. I have one coming up next year in Miami. I just booked an LA couple that wants to take me to the south of France.
Oh, we'll go. We'll go.
Well, I need a big team to go international, so please.
I love that. That's fantastic. You have a book coming out, a new book coming out. It is called We Do, an inclusive guide when a traditional wedding won't cut it. And it says you share your wisdom, humor, and heartfelt experiences. Do you have a favorite wedding or favorite wedding location, humorous experience you'd like to share?
Well, I have many. I
It's
mean,
like, how do you pick, right?
it is really hard to pick. I mean, I've had so many moments in my career as a wedding planner that I'm like, pinch me. How did this become my life? This is so incredible. As a kid who grew up in theater and wanting to be in theater, now having planned so many theatrical couples weddings, and just the moments where they're like, this is my best friend and they're going to perform at this wedding, and it's like someone that I idolized growing up, and I'm giving them their cue that it's that place is for them to sing the couple's first dance or whatever. I mean, those moments have just been like, I cannot believe I'm here cueing some of these people, really, really special. And also with some of these very talented people whose careers I respect so much, just getting to know them about something that's so personal, because that's what happens when you plan someone's weddings. You get to know all the ins and outs of them. And I think they've also been so appreciative that I understand the world of show business. So we can be midway through a wedding and someone all of a sudden books a job that, really throws off their schedule, and they have the confidence that no matter what, the wedding will still go on because they have me and my team planning it. But it's really hard to pick like one favorite. I think if I really had to, there was one wedding which, it's a full circle story for me, because the very first wedding that I planned was for my sister to her wife, and before it was legal. Um, and and then years later, when they had children, there was a babysitter that they had met that they hired, who became like a part of our family. Her name was Michelle. And she eventually got engaged to a girl named Sydney and said, "We'd love for you to plan it." And by that point, she had become very close to the whole family. So she asked my sister to officiate the wedding. She asked my sister-in-law to be a bridesmaid, and she asked their two children to be the flower children. And I was the planner. So that was like the coming together of family in a way that, my world of queer weddings, that if I had to pick a favorite, just because it was so emotionally fulfilling to have them all there, that would probably be it.
The connection there. When a couple is hiring you, how far in advance? I can imagine you're probably pretty booked up. Yeah, I mean, you probably don't have 2025. Do you have 2026? How far in advance should they contact you?
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing is I feel like in my career, I've kind of been through the wedding Olympics. I mean, in a dream scenario, every couple would be, about a year out, because then I think for the most part, you really have your pick of the litter in terms of venues, unless you're really set on a specific weekend, then it's more challenging. There's so many couples that are really into like numerology about certain dates, and those, like really, really popular, like a 10-10 or, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But in terms of, as long as we can get a couple, a venue and a date, we can do the rest in, 9 months, 6 months, even sometimes. But I mean, I've done weddings in 2 months for couples that have just decided that they want to make it happen, and they can't believe that we put the whole thing together in 2 months. I don't love to work at that pace, but at the same time, it can be a little bit freeing for the couple, because we have to present them options and say, well, this is what's available since we only started 2 months ago.
Right.
You don't have time to look through 10 different bands. These are the two that are still open.
Yeah. Your options are limited. So,
and to go back to the story that you shared, about what, the wedding that you did on the Tuesday, the very first weekend that weddings could take place in New York, when it was um, there was like a lottery system to getting marriage licenses in the beginning, because they were so concerned about how many couples were going to come and start applying for them. And I got a call the very first weekend that weddings could take place from a couple on a Friday that said, "We just found out we won the lottery to get a license. Can we do our wedding on Sunday?" And we put the whole thing together in 48 hours.
Oh,
that's
wow.
great. Yeah, that's great. It just shows you how good you really are. We tell people all the time when we're talking to any kind of wedding pros here or with our clients, it's like, if you've met with somebody and you like them, just book them, because 2 weeks from now, they're going to have to tell you they're not available anymore, and we're all going to feel bad about it.
Yeah.
Just do it,
Have you had a most unique venue?
Oh, most unique venue. I mean, probably. I mean, there's always a challenge. I mean, we've done stuff in people's homes, where we have to tent, and I wouldn't say that's so unique, but those come with a ton of challenges, because, bathrooms and parking and tent permits.
It's never as easy as you think at the home.
No, I mean, but, and I always wonder for a couple, is it worth it to have this personal connection to the property? Is it that much of a,
Right.
But for some it is. But I think probably the most unique location that I had to work at was a couple. They said to me when they hired me, they said, "Our dream was to get married on unicorns." And so we thought the next best thing would be a caravan.
Okay.
The next best thing would be what?
Be a carousel.
Oh, okay. I love it.
There's a carousel in Brooklyn called Jane's Carousel.
Jane's Carousel. Oh my God.
I love it.
And what was so nuts about it was it had to be open to the public for I think they closed at 6 p.m. and we could start the event at 7. And we got lucky because it was a beautiful day, which meant that the entire area where the carousel was absolutely packed. We had essentially the entire event in a U-Haul ready to pull up at 6 o'clock, and we set up everything in an hour, which were bars, we had food trucks pull up, we had all the decor, a sound system, a lighting system. I mean, everything was
That's the energy. Yeah.
And we started on time. I couldn't believe it.
Wonderful. Wonderful. So, people, your website,
Yeah.
Jason Mitchell Kahn, listeners can go on there and they can inquire with you. They can see your beautiful gallery, and you can even pre-order your new book from there. When is that coming out? This summer?
The book should be out in August. We originally thought it was going to come out earlier this summer, and as I've learned now, the final process of working on a book, which is the typesetting, is something that is offset with certain products that come from China, and the state of our world right now caused a bit of a delay. But
oh wow, isn't that weird? You never think about things like that.
Yeah,
me neither, until I was told that my book would not be coming out in June, and we were looking at August. But I believe in life. What you can't control, you can't sweat about. So it's coming out a little bit later. It's still something I'm really proud of. It's different than my first book, and I felt like, I wrote Getting Groomed on the heels of same-sex marriage legalizing in New York, and it was really the beginning of my career. And now, after more than a decade of really doing the work, I felt like I really had something to say. And I pitched it initially as kind of like an updated version of Getting Groomed, and it led to this wonderful conversation with the publisher about even within the space of LGBTQ plus weddings in the past decade, we've evolved so much in terms of language, and it's not so binary. I mean, I've had many couples that have told me they don't identify as gay, they don't identify by their sex or their gender, they don't like titles like brides or grooms or like all these different things. And so I just thought, rather than making this box for gay grooms, like, this is for anyone that just doesn't really feel seen in the wedding industry. And I mean, there are certain chapters that took more for me to then expand upon because it's really for any gender. So the chapter on wardrobe, I really had to do a deep dive on dress silhouettes and things like that, as to where Getting Groomed was just about tuxedos and suits. But it was really interesting doing it because that was one of the only chapters that really felt like you had to spell out the difference between the genders. And the rest is really for any couple that just wants to learn where the rules and traditions came from and get the permission to break them and make it their own.
I look forward to your book. I'm going to do a pre-order there. That's going to be an interesting read. Thank you.
I hope so. And it's coming with a downloadable workbook, which the nice thing about that's an opportunity for a couple who gets the book to do the work. I mean, the idea is that this is something you're getting if you're not hiring a real planner or you're hiring someone who's going to be maybe like a day of person to really walk you through everything that goes into planning. And the nice thing about the downloadable book is that we can then update it, because to make anything definitive,
that's great.
I mean, the trends just change so much. I mean, I feel like we're just scratching the surface of where AI and technology is becoming a part of wedding planning. And not that I feel expert on it, but in a year, it might be normal for couples to be like, putting on virtual glasses to see a floral rendering. And if that becomes an industry standard, then it's going to get added to the calendar. Make sure you set that up with your florist.
Yeah. Oh, that is interesting. What a great idea. You can just update it, keep updating it as things change. That's funny that you said the glasses. I was looking through your website and your galleries and stuff. I saw it was on your Instagram. I'll let our listeners know. We'll put a link to the Instagram on the social media site, so you can just click right on it. The wig bar. Was that your idea? That looks so much fun. And so, because the photo booth is something fun, but this was like a wig bar photo booth type thing with the glasses and different colored types of wigs. What fun.
It is my favorite activation to create. We've done it several times now, and I'm so thrilled it's become one of our signatures. But I mean, it really just started. I've been to just as, so many parties where friends will, get out wigs, and that's just sort of like a way that we hang out. And so many couples were like, well, then we want that at our wedding. And I said, well, if we're going to have it at a wedding, it has to be a more elevated version of that. We're not just like, passing around wigs. So we learned how to really curate these stations and make them really visually appealing with different wig heads and stands. And my favorite thing is, I mean, that's I think something pretty specific to gay culture in terms of how we hang out, but it's always like the straight uncles that can't wait to put on the wigs. And it's like my favorite thing to see happen at a wedding.
That's really
I
funny.
can see that. It seems like a lot of fun. People who just let loose, and
It's all about living your fantasy. And that's so fun that weddings give people the permission to let loose. And, we create safe spaces for people to celebrate. And I love that.
That sounds good.
You have a beautiful website. I see your team, and I just got to say, my favorite person, even though I have not met him on the team, is Barnaby.
Of course.
His black tie and his wonderful underbite, I guess that is. He's your dog, and I love his bio. And I'll tell our listeners, go to the website and read Barnaby's bio. That's great.
He is a very, very special dog. He just turned 11, and
oh wow,
when he was 3 months old, so he's been a part of this whole journey. And I mean, we were talking about this before, your fellow dog people. I mean, there is no greater joy than having a dog in your life.
Yeah.
And I feel very lucky that I have one that's so adaptable that he has been to many site visits and he's gone to tastings.
That's hilarious. Oh
I mean, my couples are like, well, when do I get to meet Barnaby?
Yeah.
I know. They're kind of like
couple that's a dog people. We talked about how it connects you. There's something so great with a couple says to me, do you care if we have our dog in the wedding? And it's like, please,
Yeah.
bring the dog. Yes,
Totally.
you got to.
And I always think it's funny when, certain couples, if we are like using their dog in the wedding, sometimes I'm the one at the back of the aisle that's like holding the dog until it's time to sit down. And, I mean, it's like one other layer of wedding planning. Like, I've got the treats in my pocket and the poop bag's ready to go. Like, just in
That's
case.
right.
Couples are always like, well, I'm like, but this is what we do. We're dog people,
Never leave home without a treat and a poop bag.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love to write a dog's part in a ceremony. I love to reference the dog, and it's great. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I feel like we just scratched the surface here.
Yeah.
We'd love to have you back on again. Maybe after your book comes out, we can talk about it, because I do plan on reading it. I'm sure Celia does as well, and we can talk about how your summer weddings went.
Yeah, it would be my pleasure. It's been lovely
Sounds great.
chatting with you. And thank you so much for having me on.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you. You both of you have a great day. Okay. You and Barnaby.
We will.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
This podcast is brought to you by New Jersey wedding officiant Andrea Pertel, owner of For This Joyous Occasion Officiating Services.
And Celia Milton, owner of NJ Vows Now, also New Jersey wedding officiating services. We're up in North Jersey, and Andrea is down in Central and South Jersey. So together we cover the whole state, don't we?
Yes, yes.